G'day and welcome to the Vibe Union podcast.
Hello.
Episode 64. My goodness, it's good to be back after 2 weeks.
All that time.
Gosh, how I missed it. Yeah. We're drinking lagers.
Yes.
We're here at Radio Bar.
Yes.
It's me and Jason,
Hello,
the beefy boys. We're trying to have that catch on. We say it reluctantly, but we keep talking about it.
It slipped out of my mouth once and it just, the beef slip, I don't know, that sound, beef slip?
Beef slider. Little beef slider out of the mouth.
But before we get started, just want to acknowledge the custodians of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. It's important to understand, acknowledge that, we are conducting ourselves in stolen land. Sovereignty was never ceded. Treaties have never been signed. And we get to do this all the time. And it's a privilege and it's an honour. But, it's not everyone's been able to share their stories and express themselves like we've been privileged to do. So I just want to, acknowledge all the First Nations people and also specifically acknowledge the Palawa people of Lutruwita, which is Tasmania, where I unfortunately grew up. So, all right. So that's podcast time.
I will learn the Bendigo region as well so that I can copy you and say very much, unfortunately. No, it's a gorgeous area. It's a gorgeous area, to be fair. As is Tassie, though. Tassie is a gorgeous area.
Yeah,
it's just the people that's the problem.
Yeah, suck.
As is the problem with Bendigo. Are we drinking different beers? No, it's just different angles.
Lager, for all your lager needs.
How are you? What's going on?
I'm good. Not much. How are you?
I'm good. Not much.
There we
Great.
go. Cool.
Vibe Union podcast. What is it all about? It's a couple of boys talking about art and stuff. We run events. Today, unless you've got anything we can just kick straight into something.
Let's just jump right into it.
I've been thinking about...
Is that copy marked or not?
Is what copy marked?
Let's just jump right into it.
Who is that again? Is that Philip DeFranco?
Yeah.
Oh, Philly D.
What's up, you beautiful bastards?
If it was a
like, you prick.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Otherwise, I punch you in the throat. Is his latest thing. We won't be doing that.
I haven't watched it for a while. Anyway, we've got topics to talk about.
I've been thinking about perfectionism in art.
Ooh.
And I'm going to start. I got some ideas, some points. No format and no real planning. So I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to ask questions to you, and then we can riff on that.
Okay.
First of all, do you think you're a perfectionist when it comes to art?
Yes. It doesn't come across, but yes.
Okay.
My stuff that I do is, I think I'm a perfectionist at it, but in the way that I go about my day-to-day life, no. But yeah, if I'm doing I like my poetry to be perfect and no mistakes or stutters and stuff. So, and I got to stop saying so much, but it's a very difficult thing to do.
That's something that will come in time with podcasting.
I don't think so.
No, that's true.
No, I've been doing it a lot, and I still, and if I think about it, then a lot of my brain capacity is thinking about not saying the word and and then I'm struggling to have a normal conversation.
I was listening to Triple R the other day, and they were umming and ahhing just as much.
I don't know what that is. I'm assuming that's a radio station.
You don't know what Triple R is? Yeah, it's like one of the biggest radio stations in Melbourne.
Oh, I don't know.
My goodness. All right, we can't drink beer at the same time. That would be dead air. You find yourself perfectionist in poetry. Do you think that you have always had that? Follow up, which is far more interesting. Do you have kind of a reasoning behind that? Is it come from a place of expectations on yourself, insecurities, or a strong will to get a very particular idea across to the audience?
One of the, I keep talking about this on podcast now, but one of the reasons is literally the autism, because it's a thing. Like if it's things too hard, you just go. As a kid, if things too hard, you just go, no, I'm not going to do it. There's no way. If I can't do it properly, I'm not going to do it.
Sure.
I did that when I cross country. I used to be first all the time.
Yeah.
And it was a very small school, but then a couple of kids came, and I was coming third.
Yeah.
And I just went, fuck it, I'm not going to do it anymore because I'm not winning.
Right.
So that's part of it.
Yeah.
And so if I've performed my limited performing of the rap, and the hip hopping. Like if I've screwed up a song, like one line, like I'm like, well, the set's not good. And then people are like, well, they don't actually know, it's your song, so they don't actually know the lyrics. So if you miss something, and I'm like, yes, but I know. So like, yeah, I might kill the rest of it, but I'm like, still messed up that one. I don't know if that answered the question, but sort of.
Sort of, yeah, definitely. I definitely can relate to that idea of, in certain aspects, the quitting as soon as you're not the best at it. I was doing that with, Keyboard Warriors, which is Seth Century's massive Aussie rapper, and he hosts one of the best live streams I've ever seen in terms of production value.
Yeah, actually, no, that's true.
He hosts,
shout out to Seth.
Yeah, please have me back on Keyboard Warriors.
Come do a podcast episode with us. It'd be lovely.
Yeah, we're too small for him.
I'm a big beefy boy.
But he's an amazing rapper. He's one of the few Aussie rappers I really kind of stay tuned into what he's doing at the moment. Anyway, his live stream is people come on, they write 4 bars over a couple of days, send it in. Next rapper writes their 4 bars, sends it in, goes back and forth 2 times. And you get a little battle.
Yeah, a linguistic roast battle, really.
A little, exactly.
Well, actually, it's all linguistically. So.
And it was sick. And I won every single one. Well, no, when I say every single one, it was 2. I think I won 2 in a row, and then I lost the third. And I felt I should have won, and I just lost all my will to continue. So I tapped the fuck out. So I can definitely relate to that. But I feel like a lot of people tap out of their creation, and they call it perfectionism because, and this might not be for everyone, is they get married to the idea they have for a project, for an art piece, and then there is the actual outcome of that idea. This is kind of the overall. This is the overall idea that I'm kind of running with today. And shout out to what is it? Story Factory, Story Machine, something like that. It's a YouTube channel, amazing YouTube channel where I got this idea from, and I'll link them down in the description below. They gave me this. Well, I'm sort of copying this idea. We're just going to riff on it for a bit.
That's fine.
But that when you have an idea for an art piece or a poem or what have you, there is no way to actually translate that idea precisely to the page in the form of poetry. You have an image, you have an idea, you have a feeling especially, and you want to translate that to the page perfectly how you see it in your head, how you hear it in your head, how you feel it in your heart, which is completely impossible because how you think and how you feel is not through words, though I have got, as most do, have an inner dialogue, an inner monologue. But there's more to it than that. You can't translate a feeling completely into words. We can do our best, and that is the role of the poet. But to get that idea perfectly to the page is impossible. And then to also translate that from the page through someone else's eyeballs or through their ears if you're reading it out loud and into their heart and their soul, and to translate what you felt and thought exactly into what they and get that into their head perfectly is impossible because they're going to filter it as well through all their own expectations and own experiences.
That's why I like to do sometimes is you know what you mean, and so if you write in a way that people can not misconstrue it but make up their own ideas to be like, oh, okay, I resonate with this, maybe not for the same reason.
Yeah.
But okay, that kind of okay, I don't, that conjures something. Because it's also about the performance as well. Like, if it's very dry, it's like, okay, well, I know the words you're saying, but it doesn't have an impact.
100%.
And I guess that's what I do. Like, if I do a poem, if I haven't done it before, I don't have the, my brain takes over and I just either scream it, yell it, or just let it take. If I'm very angry, it just like I'm trying to do it in a measured way. And then within the fourth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth line, I'm just back into there's no structure. I'm just like yelling it, which is obviously expression and all that. But I want to have the professionalism and that for like competitions and that. But then part of me is like, well, if I want to just keep true to form, but then I'm like, well, I kind of want to. I forget that I'm still an audience in front of me. So I'm trying to.
What's the more true expression though out of those two? The one that when it's fresh, you did one a few weeks or maybe a monthly back when it was fresh, raw, and it was a very angry poem.
The ones that win competitions. No, I think it's sort of a weird thing. It's you can do. I've seen. See, it's annoying with the poets that come here. They can do both. They can express and do it in a poet. They don't talk the way they speak in their poetry.
Yeah.
Same as a Tennessee congressman who got kicked out of the whole other thing.
Yeah.
But when he speaks in Congress, he speaks like a poet. When he does interviews outside, he speaks regularly. But then when he speaks in Congress again, like talk and stuff, he speaks like a poet, takes pauses, and he's like, "Shit, that's captivating." So yeah, it's kind of you get that raw stuff, but also I've always had to think about if it's too rehearsed, you're just like. I always hated it, but then I've come around to it. I'm like, well, if you've rehearsed it enough, then you can make it so much more impactful. I'm thinking about like editing a song, changing stuff with a song. Like you're adding extra elements to it to make it sound better. Yeah. But it's still the original thing. You're just enhancing it with different samples or sounds or stuff like that.
Definitely on the performance side, there is that kind of that middle area where perhaps the first time you do it, though it depends on if you're maybe nervous. I think nerves can really kill that initial performance. And I've been reading ones that I'm really excited for recently, and I've not been happy with any of the performances because I stumble through words and what have you. Even though I have memorized them as a rap, but then reading them, I can't get through it.
Well, it's a different flow and a different cadence, that kind of thing.
But that initial reading, that initial performance, maybe a good example actually is like when I am making music, there is the initial day when I make the beat and I write the lyrics and I put it down. Maybe not necessarily in one day, but what have you. And the first performance is usually quite playful and fun, and I'm excited about the words, and that can be really good. And then there's probably a grey area of like maybe 2 or more months where the performance is not there because maybe I'm concentrating too much on memorizing the words. But once you memorize all of the words and you can truly flow with it and completely forget what you're doing and just focus on the emotional side of things and try and tap back into either the original emotion or a new emotion, but funnel through this piece, then that's the golden
kind
crown
of switching
jewel.
your brain off in a way, like it's letting the instinct take over a little bit. Because I know, like, I mean, I haven't really performed much music recently at all, which is fine. That's all good. But yeah, like, I know the times I've done well, I don't really remember the performance. Yeah, because I've sort of just blacked out a little bit. Yeah, and the same as some poetry stuff. I remember doing a little bit, and I have a weird habit of staring down the microphone. So all the photos and stuff, it looks like I have my eyes closed.
Sure.
A lot of times. So so if you see the three of you that follow me on Instagram, see some of the photos or videos, I'm wearing sunnies because then I'm not thinking about I try not to look down the microphone.
Good call.
That's one of the reasons I wear them. And also this lights are bright, but that doesn't bother me. I wear the sunnies just so I'm not I'm not like staring down the mic and then.
And you look super cool.
Yes, I'm such a cool boy. I'm a cool rap doer, and but I do it with poetry as well. Like I will stare, like I'll stare down the mic or something, and then but then I'm like trying to look out and be like engaging with the crowd, and then I'm like, well, eye contact what my people are known for. So I'm like, but I'm like, I want a nice photo with my eyes open, which is very rare. But yeah, there's that story.
I feel like with switching your brain off is because I think a lot of people get really. And I'm speaking also for myself that like I get really locked into obviously memorizing the piece or perfecting the in this idea perfecting the translation, which if you got the initial feeling, the initial idea, and then you have the translation of that idea from your inner self into the physical world to be seen by other people. I think I get lost in that I get lost in that translation which you need to do if you want to perfect that, because that's what
Yeah.
people are actually seeing and hearing. But then I get so lost in that I forget to tap back into that initial excitement and the initial spark, the flame of
Yeah,
the
it's just
piece.
like, okay, I need the excitement and the grandeur of just like, oh, I get to perform my words and that, like my writing stuff is lost, and you're just like, okay, no, don't fuck it up. Just like do this, go out there, be good, and that kind of thing. I think that's also indicative of like smaller creators and stuff, because you're not just going, okay, music today, music tomorrow, music all week. It's music today. Oh, I've got to work tomorrow for the next 3 days.
Yeah.
And then I've got to do stuff. I've got this plan, so that evening I'm not free. Then in the morning, okay, I'll spend a bit here writing, and then I'll rehearse a bit later, and then I'll do a bit of writing here, and then trying to do all that kind of stuff on top of just living an existence.
Yeah.
Of whatever existence you
Desperately
live.
trying to.
But that's it. It's like I guess I'm just trying to think of like if you look at Melbourne musicians on Facebook. And if someone goes, oh, I've got a free spot, I've got a gig for someone's pulled out who wants it, it pays $300 or something. It's like you've just thrown like raw meat into a pool of piranhas. Not having to go with the musicians, but everyone, because it's such a saturated thing.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh yeah, so I've DM'd you, and it's just like, someone's just going to get a ton of DMs, and then within half an hour, it's just like, all right, everyone, found someone, stop, please messaging me, and that kind of thing. It's just sort of trying to look out for those opportunities, but also doing that. Yeah. If my point has been made, I don't know, I went off on a tangent there.
I don't fully understand the point.
But
I think
I
it's
had
a
a
good
point, and then I went on.
I think it's a good tangent.
Welcome to my emceeing.
Look, the whole point of a podcast is to just riff uncontrollably
The
for
riff boys.
45 minutes, and then say subscribe to our Patreon. Which you should, by the way, subscribe to our Patreon.
Oh, but Patreon. Oh, yeah. I've heard of those.
Do you, what was I going to say? With that idea, because so perfectionism also comes from insecurity a lot of the time.
Yes.
Because, and I guess we're talking as amateurs. So this idea that we're talking, let me round this metaphor out a little bit. So with the idea of the translation from the heart, from the soul, into the real world. Just did a little spiel in my mouth, sorry. From being artsy fartsy. One thought comes to mind is actual working musicians, working poets, working creatives.
Yeah.
An example being perhaps my brother's a jazz musician, so I've known a decent amount of jazz musicians, considering that I don't play jazz. I'm not really in that world. And seeing these guys come up, especially from young kids up until the point when they're incredible players who've studied and are going for their masters, like getting a master's degree, getting a doctorate degree in music. It seems insane, right? But they have, in this analogy, they have worked so hard to get to the point when they focus their energy on the translation, that they know exactly how to create the product that you are going to see or hear exactly.
That's a good
so
point. Yeah.
They obviously there is so much emotion and all that kind of stuff in it. Or like maybe an example could be like a graphic designer as well, who started off by illustrating, just illustrating anything that came to mind and that they found really exciting. But then they went into graphic design, and they are now talking to clients and say, okay, I have a very, very particular idea in my head, and I need to recreate it absolutely perfectly.
Yeah.
Or the client has given me some specifications, and I need to replicate those specifications into a real piece of work perfectly. Yeah. And so they have poured their heart and soul and time, mainly time, into becoming these masters of the translation of the actual product. Now, when it comes to amateur artists and artists who are focused purely on more the just expression side above all else, and then the translation or the piece is sort of what comes out not necessarily
Mm.
not
Yes.
necessarily what they envision, but what it comes out. We still compare ourselves to people who are brilliant translators.
You don't have a choice, really. Like,
That's true.
yeah, I think that people are, well, yeah, everyone listens to something or reads something or sees something, and they're like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to replicate that. But yeah, I think, it's kind of, I think what I was trying to say before, this might not be a point either, is that, it started off as amateurs. You want to, I think it's kind of that, how much of my expression can I do, and even if you're amazing at it, right? You can basically 95% you can make people picture with your words that you've said in whatever form it is, or a painting. It's like, but how will that get me to the next level?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, how much do I want to express for? Do I want to be perfect in the way I express, or do I want to be perfect in a way to get me to the next level and stop some of the expression?
Sure.
Because, you know, they said, like, sometimes, I remember Brother Ali talking about this, was that sometimes it's good to, if you're like a small artist or a very unknown artist, or like, if it's like we did, we used to do Lyrebird and stuff back in the day. But like, if you want to do, if you want to get people involved, maybe start off with a song or two, you know, cover a song, and then people go, okay, well, he knows what he's doing. Get them involved, and they're already pumped up, and then you go into yours. So that kind of thing. But, you know, it's not for everyone. But yeah, it's kind of amateur artists. I think it's very difficult sometimes to find the perfect. Okay, I want to perfect this, but is it worth the effort perfecting my expression, because it might not resonate with, you know, certain people, and it might not elevate me to get to, you know, another gig, like a gig. You know, some, if it might be a bit more poetic stuff, it's not as many people are going to come. Yeah. So, because poetry isn't as popular as rap for a reason. Sure. You know, it's not for everyone. Yeah. But.
Yeah. Okay.
If that makes sense.
For sure.
That's a point made, I think. Yeah.
No, definitely. That was a better point.
That actually was a point. Yeah. Yeah.
The other one was a point. I just didn't get it.
Neither did I don't think so.
I get. Yeah. Okay. So, depending on what you want, and I guess maybe that's probably why I'm thinking about this a lot recently, because I've always had in my head that, like, I want to be the next Green Day or the next Jack White, and I never pursued music.
So I'm just picturing you dressed up as Green Day.
It's not far off. I just need the red tie.
Just the hair, just the dark spiky hair and the eyeliner and stuff. Yeah.
I'm so glad I never I don't think I ever gelled my hair. I think I must have gelled it once or twice, and then I ran my hands through it and it was all crusty. And I thought, no, I can't do this.
I used to just talk about gelling hair.
Yeah, please.
Gel my hair, but I used to just do a ski slope at the front. So literally just like.
What do you mean?
So I can't. I can't
come up with a poetic analogy, please.
No, literally, I just get it like, I've got no hair now, but yeah, just get the gel and just slick it up like that at the front.
Oh, forward.
Yeah, forward. Yeah. So but then if it was too long, it kind of curled at the end. So it just kind of went. Sometimes it went. So I had like hardening gel, so I just got a comb, and it just sort of went. I had this hair that kind of just went out like that.
Oh no!
And then I'm like, I did that for ages, and then I saw it. I'm like, why? Why? I got all the ladies.
I think I'm still recovering from how I dressed in high
I think
school.
we all have our regrets.
We all have our horror stories, for sure. Yeah. But I think a lot about like how formative that is and how hard it is. And I have not shook the social anxiety from the things that I did to myself.
Oh yeah, I wore a backwards Mambo cap.
That's not too bad. That's not too bad.
All the time.
I wore a fedora. I did the fedora.
I wore it for one day, and then even I was an incel, but I didn't go that far.
I was told to buy the fedora by a girl that I was into. She was there at the shops with me, and she was like, "Oh, you should buy that fedora. It'd be great." And I was like, "Oh yeah, bloody hell! If she likes it, well, I'll bloody do it." So, I wore it for ages.
And these two individuals here run and host a rap hip hop night. So, you know.
We're very cool.
We're very cool.
Boys.
We're cool boys. Yeah. We both at the same time.
Yeah.
Cool boys. Yep. Cool.
God damn. There's a reason we do this. Is because we don't know how to connect with humanity in any other way.
So we have to force people to come to us. So the more if you give us Patreon money, we can put on more events and we can have more friends.
I actually, to be real, I do. I mean, there is an aspect of that. I think of like, this is a sort of a way to socialize in a sense, but mainly I actually love creating spaces for people. This is gonna be that's a bit sobby, but like,
yeah, it's good fun.
I remember this time when this is age back in the day, like I was like 18, 19, no, yeah, it must have been like 19, and I was running essentially Vibe Union, but like smaller with some other mates, and we were running events, and I remember this night that I put on for some other people, but I wasn't I wasn't playing. I was just standing at the back, and I looked out over the crowd, and these people on stage that I put on, I was like, this is sick. They wouldn't have had this gig if I hadn't done this. And it was the kind of this euphoric thing of like, they're amazing artists and they just need a little little bump up just so they can actually have an event. And I was like, oh, I can do that. I can do that side of things. I love it.
Because I have a bit of a different. I'm like, sometimes I'm saying, if I didn't MC a poetry night, I wouldn't have so much anxiety.
I think you'd have just as much anxiety. I don't think it changes anything. You'd find something else to be anxious about.
Yes, I don't. Yeah.
You're anxious about it, as I am anxious about doing anything with Vibe Union.
True.
But at the same, then we would have more anxiety of like, oh God, I'm not doing anything with my life.
This is true. Yeah. It's a lose-lose situation.
That's still
I guess.
there in the background. Yeah. But it's lessened.
Yeah, it's 2 years and nothing. I don't. Yeah. Anyway, we're talking
shit,
about
where the fuck were we? I had
perfectionism. I was talking about like being amateurs, and do you full express or do you partly do it, or
dang.
Yeah. I mean, I just think we went down a journey.
No, the hair.
You're talking about you wanted to be Green Day or Jack.
Yes, I've been
Jack
thinking
Taylor,
about this
Jack
a lot.
Johnson
Thank you
or
so
something?
much. Good. I would say we would edit that little kerfuffle out, but I won't. I will refuse to edit this.
No,
podcast.
keep it all in. Every inch.
I wanted to be Green Day or Jack White. Basically, I just wanted to be a big star, but I never actually made music or pursued that idea in a way that understood basically writing a version of pop music. Though they're obviously alternative, but they're still writing for the masses to a degree, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I think like they played neither of those acts, I think, went into what they were doing with the intention to write for the masses to be who they were, obviously. But I see a lot of, especially in the hip hop scene and especially on Instagram, a lot of people who have that mentality of they're trying to put down what they need to because of what they feel, what they need to write. But there's also this massive filter at the end that says, okay, I've got all this stuff, but what is actually going to get listened to? What are people actually going to like?
This is like perform like music.
Yeah,
right?
musically.
Yeah.
So you might have let's say you got 3 different songs, and one is like just a purely philosophical wank fest, which would be
the name of my next album.
Which would be which would be my one. Another one's maybe a heartbreak song. That one will do all right, and then the next one's a weed song. And you write these 3 and you go like, cool, this philosophical one, I fucking love it because it's just me rambling and getting out all this stuff. The heartbreak one, I need to get it out because I broke up with this person and yada yada. And then the weed song, bit of fun. And I know that one's going to be the one that everyone's going to fuck with, so that's going to be my single. That's the one's going to be the one that I want because that's what I want to be. I want to be big. I want to be a big star. And I'm trying to shift that in my head. I don't have that because I don't write popular material. I write philosophical
if you wrote
wank fests.
popular music, you wouldn't be here doing this podcast. So
True. But it's still in the back of my head, and it's still nagging away that like, oh man, you should write you should just write and act differently. You should be trying to be bigger than you are. But I like the philosophical wank fest. That's what comes naturally to me, and I want to express that more. But if I'm comparing it to a lot of the rappers that I listen to, harder to do because I get that filter coming in stronger, being like, well, that's not what's going to hit.
Yeah, there's I can't remember. He's a rapper, smaller rapper. I wish I knew his name now.
Is it Kanye?
No, no. He's relatively known. I
He's
think.
getting out. He's getting up there.
He's quite.
He's
popular
had a
with
rough
certain-
patch recently.
He's quite popular with a certain type of people. Anyway,
Real yin and yang sort of situation.
but yeah, I can't remember now. But he was one of his lyrics.
Yeah.
It was like he's talking about like he doesn't have big massive shows, but the people that turn out are hardcore fans. And I think one of the lines is like, "Well, I'm eating now," so I was like, "Well, I'm not putting big shows, but I'm able to, you know, live in a house, eat food, and be comfortable enough.
Yeah.
But while I'm doing music, I've got enough fans to." And yeah, he does a bit of more lyrical poetry stuff. But yeah, he's if I could remember, it would be lovely. But yeah,
if you remember, we'll put him down in the description.
Yes, but yeah, that lyrics is just like I'm eating now, and I don't need. It's talking about fans. Basically acknowledging it. He's not the biggest. We talk about rhyme says all the time.
Yeah.
I think Brother Ali was saying that one of his best show was in like a place called I don't know, Mud Slap, Missouri or something like that.
Correct.
No, not quite. It's something.
That's not a town, it should be. That's
Mud Kip or something like.
Yeah.
You know,
what, the Pokemon?
Mud. Yeah. But yeah. But he was talking about that. That was one of his favourite gigs because it was 500 odd people, maybe less.
Yeah.
But they were all hardcore fans, and he's like,
yeah.
So yeah, sort of sometimes you just find. If you get enough people, like I said, people come to our poetry night, don't know why, but they keep coming back. Obviously, you know, you start creating a little bit of a.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we have fans I'm not saying people come here with placards going, you know.
No nonsense. But there's people that fuck with this because there's a certain vibe that we've put together that almost purely accidentally. Like we have our strong opinions and ideas for this. For Radio Talk and Vibe Union in general, but for the most part, it's been like editing ourselves as we go to see what the fuck works and what doesn't work and what we feel like. But
I mean, ultimately, we just want it to be a cult so we get the tax benefits.
We don't pay tax anyway. Like we don't make enough money to pay tax anyway.
Yes, tax man, that's very much true. I'm joking.
As if they would watch. I guess so. Oh, okay, so maybe we're already doing it then. Maybe we're already following that.
Well, we're doing.
Natural.
We've had conversations, and it's like we're doing what we want to do now.
Yeah.
I think we have to get out of the mindset, especially me, is that not everything has to be perfect.
Yeah.
Which is annoying because I know with you deal with artwork on that for Vibe Union.
Yeah.
And that you're like, oh no, it's not perfect. It's not this. It's not that.
Yeah, I get perfect, but more in like that's more like a. I hate when people say like I'm a bit OCD because like you're not actually OCD. Yeah. Like being OCD is fucking awful.
Yeah.
But I'm a bit OCD when it comes. I think
I like the ableist voice you use there too. That's good.
No, that was people who say they're OCD. That's people who say they're OCD but aren't OCD. That's not what people who with OCD sound like. I just wanted to... People with OCD, proper OCD, so I was going to do a posh English accent and make them sound hoity-toity.
All posh English people have OCD, yeah.
Well, they got sticks up their ass. They're definitely.
It's a study. They did a study, yeah. I think it was Nietzsche that once. We did that joke last time. It's fine.
Every good podcast has running jokes.
That's just me in general. I think just a running joke. I don't know. I was going with there was something there.
That's good.
Yeah. There was something there, but I bailed halfway through.
Oh my god! Now this is a nightmare. I keep falling over my.
So this is a good example of how perfectionism isn't good sometimes.
When it comes to design, I think most graphic designers have got that. They're like, if they see something that's like a little bit off, it just like their brain just goes short circuits.
Well, that was
so there's a bit of that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
but there's also I still have the mentality of like it just has to get out. It has to be done now. So. It's going to be. I want to try and make it perfect, but it's going to be as good as it can be. That's really, man. That's my take on perfectionism because obviously we all want it to be perfect. Everyone wants things to be perfect, but whenever someone says, "Oh, I'm a bit of a perfectionist," and they usually say the word properly, bit of a perfectionist. Perfectionist. There we go.
Perfect actionist.
It's almost always coupled with, I've never released anything. They never say that, but like, I'm a perfectionist. and they've never released anything.
Yeah.
And I say, well, then you shouldn't be. Because first,
Yeah.
I think you're not allowed to be. If you haven't released anything, you sort of aren't allowed to be a perfectionist because you actually haven't proven there's nothing to be perfect about, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah. You don't know if it's going to be perfect until like it's released or it's like it's seen. Like, you don't. Yeah, because it said you could write something, and then you listen to it. It's like a song.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's going to be perfect until you hear it back through a recording.
Yeah.
So you don't know if it's perfect or not. The lyric, which is something I struggle with too. It's like I don't
listening back to your own music.
Like the EP I have now. I'm like, no. Oh, someone told me once
the beat slap. I say, look at the beats fucking slap.
But that's the thing. Someone said once that you bit like. Yeah, your music. I think we've touched on this before. But your music might not be as good, but it's you're writing about what's going on at that time, and that reflects that. Yeah. So there was
a snapshot. It's a snapshot.
But now, sort of listen to it now. I'm like, sorry for those 3 listeners that I have on Spotify.
I think that's an important point with the snapshot. With like, you need to make it now. Because you can't, like, especially if it's a heartfelt song or if it's anything that's based on, again, if we're taking that initial idea of like there's the initial idea and especially the initial emotion, but then you sit on it for like years, that initial emotion's gone. You know that initial emotion is gone. Yeah. So like, especially if it's a heartbreak song, you got to fucking release that right now. You got to get it out, or if you don't want to release it, don't put that expectation on it for it to be perfect, because it's actually fitting a very different role, is to express this very particular thing that you need to get out. Maybe the product isn't. Maybe it was never going to be.
But the point of it is to actually just express yourself.
The emotion's perfect.
But that's the same. Going back to like this poetry. Not everyone that does poetry is a primed poet of greatness that have been doing it for years. Yeah. But then sometimes people come up to me, like, oh, this is my first ever time reading, and they go up and then kill it. And I'm like, you sound like a poet. When I did it, I was gross and disgusting. Like, how do you sound
and
like
look
this?
Look at you now.
I still sound the same. But I'm like, how did you like? And they're like, oh yeah, no, I've never performed. I'm like, how do you have that specific poetic voice if you've never? I'm like, I hate you, but also I don't. But also it's so annoying.
Maybe just like almost a lack of understanding.
Yeah,
they don't understand the poetry world, nor do they need to.
People come up like, people have asked me, like, I've got something, like really raw and intense, and I'm like, okay, and they're like, oh, can I do it? I'm like, you can do what the fuck. I mean, is it unless it's we all know what you can and can't. Well, most people know what they can and can't say.
Some people have found that line and ran right past it.
Yeah. So, but most people know what they're doing. And just Paul off in the distance.
Paul off mic saying, "There's a few people who spring to mind."
But that's the thing about with our community now. So I have like 4 people who are going to fight my battles for me.
Yeah, that's true. You got a little armada.
Because I'm just like, it's either I'm too timid or way too intense. That's my problem.
You're 0 to 100 in every aspect of your life.
I'll get middle-aged women to fight my battles for me, and I'm perfectly okay with that.
Does that come back to the tism?
Yeah.
0 to 100.
Yes.
Nothing in between.
So then I'll just like, I'm trying my best.
Oh, for sure. Paul wants to be a guest, and he absolutely will be.
But I said a lot of we've had poets that come and there's a couple of individuals that come semi-regularly, and they aren't quite rounded as a poet, but they just come and they like the night and they just perform and do their stuff and sort of just leave and that's it kind of thing. It's and some people I don't know if I'm good enough. I'm like, you stand in front of a microphone, that's the point. Yeah, and just say whatever.
You've already done it.
Yeah, some people have spoken in a different language.
Yeah. We'll encourage that more. Yeah, I really like that.
I like not knowing what the poem's about.
That's an interesting one, tapping into like this universal expression, because you don't know what they're talking about, but you can. But
we have a small little percentage of people that actually understand it. So they're like, yes, go off and clicking stuff, and everyone else is. All the white people are going, Yeah.
Yeah.
But also the way they speak it, the way they speak, even if we can't understand it, you still go, okay, that's,
Yeah.
you can tell that's meaning something.
This is a great segue into the YouTube video that I watched that kind of stemmed this whole thing. Maybe we can tie it up like this.
Okay.
Is that because I keep saying the word translation, it stemmed from actual translation. So there's this ancient is that ancient? I can't remember. There's this Japanese poem, world-renowned Japanese poem that essentially goes a frog jumped into a pond, kaplop. But in English, it sounds like that. In Japanese, there's a whimsy and majesty to it.
Once you get rid of
literally can't be translated into English. And people have tried. There's been like tons of well-renowned translators and poets who have translated it into English, and every single one you read it and you go, that's not it. That's not it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what it is because I can't speak Japanese or read Japanese. But
as soon as you change it from the original writing text, it changes. Yeah, it's interesting.
You can translate text in like how to drive a steam train. You can translate that when I'm trying to bring it back to trains every time.
Yeah.
But you got something? Yeah, bring it in.
Okay.
Very, very limited.
Okay. Hold on.
2 weeks.
Speak into the mic.
I studied 2 weeks of Japanese.
Hold the
before I
mic.
discovered-
Hold it.
Sorry. I'm not used to the mic.
This is Paul from Radio Bar.
Hello. I discovered that after 2 weeks of Japanese, I couldn't speak Japanese, but one of the most alluring concepts was the fact that they don't have a concept for like on the table. Everything is either above the table or below.
I've heard
the
this
table.
before, actually.
Probably from me chatting shit.
Oh, yeah, that might be the case.
Anyway, I'll hand you back.
Well, there we go.
I find that fascinating that
I'm good, thanks, Paul.
you can't. There's certain concepts that you cannot translate through a language.
Well, there's the Sami people. I think they're like north, like Inuit people are like north in Sweden. I'm sure it's not just them, but it's like there's a concept. I think I may have talked about some podcast before. I don't know, but it's a york or a yoke or something like that, and it's a song, but there's no lyrics.
Right.
It's because there was the Sweden's Got Talent. This guy was on there. His name's John.
Yeah.
And he was just like, a friend of mine passed away, and I wrote this for him.
Yeah.
But it's essentially noise, but it's a musical, like he was playing with the it's a verbal sound and a rhythm, but there is actual but it was specifically about his friend that passed away.
Yeah.
But there was, but so everyone in the world can go, that shit's heavy, even if there's no lyrics, so to speak. But it's like this performance is specifically about my friend.
Interesting.
And then everyone goes, well, I haven't had a friend that passed away, but I can equivocate this to a different thing. Even though this is not about, it's about a certain thing. I can use.
I think human emotion and especially suffering is universal to a degree. Like you can't understand the world that people live in, but you can understand the human emotion behind it, I think. At least you can relate it. Well, I guess you can translate it as best you can. As with everything we've talked about tonight, is you can approximate, you can translate as close as you can. And I think that's
a nice little sweet way to end the...
Yeah.
End it. Nice.
I think there's so much more in here that we can go into.
But we just don't have the time.
Well, yeah. And also, I should have probably formulated my points better. But, hey, that's what this podcast is all about, is not planning.
It's raw.
As is Vibe Union. We're going to wrap it up here.
Yes.
Next time, we'll
more structure?
No, there won't be more structure.
I'm not promising that at all. So.
If you like dumb ramblings on creativity and other bullshit, then comment, like, and tell us what you want us to talk about.
Subscribe if you want to.
If you're in Melbourne, hit us up. You might be able to come onto the podcast. I'm not going to promise anything because you might be a nut job, which actually is probably good content, but we'll see if I can be fucked dealing with you.
He's already got to deal with me, so you know.
I can only have one. Yes, exactly. I have already too much on my plate. Jason, what's coming up?
We have poetry tonight.
Which
that's-
you
yes.
has already passed by the time you hear
Yes,
this.
by the past, but
But it comes up every 2 weeks, so you can get to the next one.
Yes, yeah.
I'm
We're
furiously pointing at the camera.
For those if you can't see. We have on the 17th of May.
Yep.
We have the return of Dusty Sessions.
Booyah.
Booyah.
Dusty Sessions is our acoustic
getting there.
showcase night. Yeah, but you
Jeez.
fucking butcher it every time. The gigs.
It's our folk and acoustic night, which is hosted by the lovely Kelsey Jean.
Huge.
Huge individual.
Big K.
7'6". Of pure
that's my
folk,
girl.
of pure folk music.
7'6" of pure folk music.
Yes.
That's really delightful.
It's at the Brunswick Green now.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
we've moved venue. We have We have 3 artists.
Yes, we do.
It's our only ticketed event. So if you wanted to,
Oh my god,
you're right.
I want to name the artists. It's just one person I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, we should do that. But so we have that coming up, 17th
fuck
of
it.
May.
Links are in the
Yeah,
description.
we'll link everything there. We are very professional. We have the first copy of our book. Of our poetry book.
Oh shit, I haven't seen it yet. You've got it with you,
I've
right?
got it in my bag. Yes.
Holy shit, I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
We have we got a poetry book of a bunch of poets. To be honest, we talked about it before. We have the physical copy, but it still needs editing. So that's there now.
It's coming.
And then obviously we have Project Legacy coming up next month. As always, but yeah, if you want to know more, you can follow us on Instagram, vibe.union.
And if you haven't checked it out yet as well, we've got our first blog post out,
I wrote
which
that. I
Jason
forgot about
wrote,
that.
and it's bloody delightful.
Yes.
It's a little catch up into what Vibe Union is and what we're doing next.
Basically, all what we just said, but then with more sauce.
A little bit more sauce.
A little bit more sauce.
And that's going to continue. We're going to do a blog post, alternating podcast.
Yeah.
Podcast every second week, and blog post every alternating week. So if you like this stuff, what we're doing, especially at our events, here's a little thing you could do for us. Now, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not your bloody mother. But if you got a couple of extra bucks, I tell you what, they go a long way in our pockets.
We like those
Vibe
long
Union,
coins.
Vibe Union has a website that we need to pay for. We have marketing stuff we need to pay for. We also do some other stuff. There's other like storage and bullshit and buying stickers and stuff like that and buying books. There's little things that we keep running into that just cost money, unfortunately. And a couple of bucks really goes a long way. So if you like what we do, hit us up on Patreon. Links in the description.
Give us
Throw us
money.
some bucks every month, and
Ka-ching, ka-ching.
we'll give you little smooches at our next event.
I won't.
Yeah. No, Jason will give you little big smooches all over your forehead, consensually, of course. If you
All
desire.
right, let's shut up. Let's wrap this up. Come on. Before I smooch you to death.
Metaphorical smooches. Okay, that's a Vibe Being a podcast. Anything left to say?
See
Area links in the description.
you later.
Oh, the music's by Sixpence.
Shout out Sixpence.